your attorneys may appear in court on your behalf without you present?
Yes, Your Honor.
The lead singer of the rock band Mars Volta takes the stand in Danny Masterson's rape trial and says he was stalked by the Church of Scientology. Journalist Tony Ortega discusses what he learned about this incredible testimony. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so we want to talk the latest right now in the trial of actor Danny Masterson out in Los Angeles, which we've been following here on Sidebar. That 70s Show star is facing criminal charges that he raped 3 women between 2001 and 2003, who were all then members of the Church of Scientology, and Masterson himself is a current and longstanding member of the church as well. Now, this is a very, very serious case. This is a case where if he's convicted, he could face up to 45 years to life in prison. That's what's at stake here. Now, we have an interesting new witness who has taken the stand and provided some fascinating testimony. I'm talking about Cedric Bixler-Zavala. So to talk a little bit more about this, I want to bring on my very special guest, journalist Tony Ortega, who's been following this case. He's been a frequent contributor here on the Sidebar podcast on the Danny Masterson story. Tony is the founder of the Underground Bunker, where he writes about Scientology-related issues, and you can find him at tonyortega.substack.com. Tony, good to see you, and good to see you in an environment where we do not have a barking dog in the background. I know a lot of people hated that, but there's only so much you can do when you're reporting from outside the courthouse, but it's good to see you inside.
Thank you, Jesse. Yes, today there's no court, so I'm not at the courthouse and there's no barking dog.
All right. Well, now that we got that put aside, let's talk about Cedric Bixler-Zavala. Let's first start. Who is he and what is his connection to the case before we even get into his testimony?
Yeah, Cedric Bixler-Zavala is a singer for Mars Volta and At the Drive-In and some other projects. He's known for his very creative, fascinating lyrics. He's got a new album out with Mars Volta, and he's married to Jane Doe 3. And he was sandwiched Friday between 2 LAPD detectives, which was a little odd. And I've had some people ask me, why did he testify at all? Because Jane Doe 3, his wife, had testified earlier in the week about these incidents that had occurred way back in 2001. Really brutal incidents she alleges happened from Danny Masterson. She didn't even meet Cedric until 2008, and they got married pretty quickly after they met. And then a couple years later, in 2010 or 2011, she told him for the first time about these incidents, and that's what they were asking him about. And I noticed some people was curious why he was being asked, because some of the things he remembers slightly differently than she does, which, you would expect 2 people 10 years later recounting things. But I think what's important to understand about Cedric's testimony is the prosecution wants to lay down a foundation that each of these women told other people about their allegations before they had ever heard about each other. And the reason they're doing that is the defense's theory is that these 3 women got together and cooked this all up as a conspiracy. So that's why we heard in Jane Doe 1's case that she had told a cousin and a friend in 2003 about her incident. And now we've heard from Jane Doe 3 that she told her husband in 2010 or 2011. All of this occurred before these women had ever heard about each other being victims. And I think starting tomorrow, we'll begin to hear from Jane Doe 2, and she has her own corroborating witnesses, in particular an actress named Jordan Ladd, the daughter of Cheryl Ladd, who again will corroborate that she was talking about her attack from Masterson years before she had an opportunity to meet these other women. So I think that's the purpose of why we had this rock and roll star in the court on Friday, Jesse.
So let's talk about his testimony for a minute, Cedric's testimony. His wife tells him that she was sexually assaulted by Danny Masterson. What did he say? What his reaction was to this? What did he say about the way that she described it to him? What a revelation that is to be told that.
A really interesting thing that Cedric said was that when she was telling him about this attack, when she woke up and she was injured and Danny was laughing about it, he said that she said it in a robotic way, like she wasn't even there. And it made him realize that not only had something happened to her, but that she hadn't really processed it fully or didn't really understand what had happened. And I think everybody in the courtroom was, caught by that. That was a very interesting thing that he said. And part of this story is that he had to kind of, because if you remember from Jane Doe 3's testimony, she had said when she went to the Church of Scientology to discuss this, they told her it's not a rape. You can't be raped in a relationship. And what's really important is she then testified that she believed them, that she was a dedicated Scientologist. And when she was told that, she accepted it. So now her husband is hearing about it years later, and he's then going to explain to her, oh no, that is a rape. And that this suddenly changed her way of thinking about it. And that's very important to understand what she then decided to do.
Now, I know, we all know, we talk about this so many times, that Scientology is not supposed to be the central focus of this case, but the actions of the church have taken a role in whether or not these women have been silenced or whether or not they were told, like you just said, what occurred to them was not what they initially said it to be. But his testimony really took a turn. My understanding is because did he not say that he became the target of the Church of Scientology?
Well, he was asked if they have been harassed and stalked since Jane Doe 3 and the other women came forward to the LAPD in 2016. And his answer was, yes, absolutely. I mean, he said it like there's just no doubt. And I interviewed him about this 4 years ago, Jesse. I wrote a story about how they believed their little dog Ethel had been killed. That their little dog was killed. It was kicked in the throat. Was the what their veterinarian found, and that they believed it was at the hands of Scientology. And then later, they had another dog die. This dog, somebody had thrown raw hamburger wrapped around rat poison over their fence into their backyard, and the dog had ingested it, and they had to put it down. Absolutely no question that's an intentional act. They also attribute that to Scientology. And, I know they have no proof of that, but through that whole time, they were going through very strange incidents with their car, with their phones, and they really believe they've been at the focus of this ongoing campaign. Jane Doe 3 was asked, how long has it been going, up to what point? And her testimony was today. The day she came to court that day, she said was part of that harassment. And she didn't detail that, but I'm interested to learn about that.
I want your reaction real quick. A spokesperson for the Church of Scientology, Karen Pugh, I might be saying that wrong, said that there is no truth. She released a statement to Law&Crime. She says there's no truth to the allegations about the church, and prosecutors are shamefully focused on Masterson's religion. With regard to the church, the DA has elicited answers from Jane Doe 3 and her husband and had them state as fact allegations about the church, which are categorically untrue. She called the couple's lawsuit an attempted shakedown because they do have a civil lawsuit against the church. And as you know, she says, as you know, the church is not part of this case. Inserting religion into this trial appears to be an attempt by the DA to divert attention from the relevant facts, whatever they may be. What's your reaction to that, Tony?
Well, Jesse, Karen's always putting out statements like that. And if you just think about it for a few seconds, you realize what a dodge it is. I mean, this is a prominent Scientology celebrity who is accused of raping 3 women who were Scientologists at the time, and who all say they didn't come forward sooner because they feared retaliation by the Church of Scientology. This is why Judge Charlene Olmedo has ruled that a limited amount of testimony about Scientology's policies are relevant. And she's keeping the case away from diving into Scientology's beliefs in general. She's admonishing both sides about keeping within the limits of her ruling. So, I mean, Karen Powell can say what she wants about, Scientology unfairly being in this case, but it's like all things that come out of the Church of Scientology, there's very little truth to it.
And just sticking with the concept of this church for a second, the Church of Scientology, Cedric Bixler-Zavala, did he have any connection to the church himself? I think I read that he might have attended some classes.
Oh, well, he did, and he has now saying that he took some courses. I think if you look back in time, he got involved at some point, but he's saying now that he just took courses and never considered himself a member. And obviously Jane Doe 3, his wife, was more involved, but that's what he testified to on Friday.
Tony Ortega, you are our eyes and ears inside that courtroom. You can follow Tony at tonyortega.substack.com. Thank you so much, sir. Hey there, everybody. Jesse Weber here from Sidebar. On our next episode of Prime Crime, it's the Florida movie theater shooting that left people divided. Did retired police captain Curtis Reeves shoot and kill Chad Olson in self-defense or because of popcorn?
So what made you shoot him? It scared the hell out of me.
We go from Reeves's police interview and what the theater footage shows all the way to the jury's verdict 8 years later. Tune into Prime Crime on Friday, November 4th at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Law&Crime Network. And thanks so much, everybody, for joining us here on Sidebar. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.